so much of this season is around hearing and tasting and touching and smelling. And we just want to say to be human means to be in touch with those things. God's created us to enjoy my wife's mother's cookie tree. Like, he created me for that. Like I was called to marry her so I could have some of those cookies every year when I get there. Like, there's so much about this season in our life that's around our senses. And to be human means to be in touch with those things. And so this Christmas season is a place where these senses are magnified so much. And I think there can be a helpful way to engage with them, but also maybe a harmful way we're gonna talk about as well. We've got a memory verse. I always forget this, and so today I'm not. So here's the memory verse I'd love for us to think about for these next several weeks. It comes from Psalm 34:8. Why don't you read it with me? Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. I would say more than anything for this Christmas season, 2019, the end of a decade, I would hope for us, let's taste and see over the next few weeks that the Lord is good. He's good. And we are blessed. I am blessed. You are blessed when we take refuge in him. Like, we can take refuge in a bunch of different places over the next 3 weeks. You know, if Skybo is one of those, there may not be a lot of blessing there. I don't know, but I have my Christmas driving routes in Fayetteville versus the regular year. I got all my secret ways to get around, not telling none of y'all where they are either, right? Because then it gets crowded over there. But for us, this is, can we be blessed is the man and woman who takes refuge in him. So we want to help together. Let's take refuge in the Lord. And last week we started off with hearing. And we were challenged. One of the challenges was what's a word that God is giving you that he wants you to hold on to this Christmas? And so one of the call to action last week was can you take time to listen to a Christmas song and sit with the Lord and just say, what's a word for me this year? What's the word that you want me to hear this year? Like what I heard this week was this, enjoy the moment. Enjoy the moment. My temptation in my life, I always think about the next moment. Right? I'm always thinking about what the next moment is. And so often in my life, I don't enjoy the moment that I'm in. Right? But for you, even if you didn't do it last week, even for this week, what's a word that you can hold on to? Ask Lord to give you one in your life. All right, today is going to be taste. All right, taste. And this is so much a part of Christmas. You may already have had some office parties. If not, I know they're coming. They're going to be friends, get-togethers, school parties, etc., where there's going to be a lot of food. And in the midst of those parties, we taste things that we don't normally taste throughout the rest of the year. Christmas has a unique taste to it, does it not? It has a unique taste to it. So just for a minute, I want you to think, what food or foods, if you're like me, what food or foods are you most looking forward to this Christmas? Just think for a moment. As you think about what's in front of you, what are you most looking forward to? We have green pancakes every Christmas morning. And we get the real bacon on Christmas. The rest of the year you kind of get the fake, but the real thick bacon on Christmas morning. Yeah. I told you about Connie's cookie tree. It's this tree, and every layer there's 4 or 5 different kinds of cookies. A couple years ago, I was at this restaurant, and they dry-aged beef. And I was like, well, how do you dry-age beef? Well, you just put it in a refrigerator and make sure there's air that circulates. I'm like, can I do that? And well, yeah, not for 60 days, but you could probably do 15 to 20. Just get whatever meat you want, whatever beef you want, put it on a cookie tray, and sit in so the air will go underneath it, and just age it. And like the last 3 years, we've aged a prime rib at our house in the fridge. And granted, I've messed it up a couple times, like when I cook it. But it's so, like for you, when you think about what's in front of you, the taste of Christmas, what are those things that you're most excited about? We've got some candy canes, you guys. I never eat candy canes, but except at Christmas. We've got some on your, if you want, go ahead and open one up and just kind of get at it a little bit. Just get your little taste of Christmas here this morning. Get your little taste of Christmas. Right? Look at us. You guys are doing it. I'm so excited. Penny, do you need one? There's one right here. Here, there's one right here. Here you go. Here you go. There we go. There we go. All right. Now, there's a couple of ditches. There's a couple of ditches when it comes to taste in our life. All right? And these are it. It's easy to fall into the ditch of gluttony guilt, or diet resentment when it comes to Christmas. Okay? And one of us probably, for me, it's definitely gluttony guilt. I mean, like, it's fine to have one serving of my mom's mac and cheese, but do you really need the third one? And then like I just right? Or maybe there's a sense of, I'm just not gonna have anything, and I'm just gonna kind of be resentful. Right? Be resentful. Now, this may seem really unspiritual at first. I'm going to tie it up for us. But tasting is a huge part, like eating is a huge part to Jesus' life. And I think part of experiencing this season is knowing how does the taste of the season help us to enjoy the relationships that God's given us that matter the most. That we see it as actually sacredness. It unlocks a sacredness versus, oh my gosh, I just ate so much I feel bad, or I'm not going to enjoy anything and be resentful about it. There's a story, it's my favorite. It's my favorite story. The team's always making fun of me because when they're like, what should we preach about? I'm like, well, there's always Zacchaeus. Like I love Jesus and Zacchaeus. So today I want to go to Luke 19, and we could have picked out so many different things of where we see Jesus and food. But in Luke 19, we have this little man, this wee little man was he, right? We have Zacchaeus, and Zacchaeus is not super popular. Right? Like, you're not inviting Zacchaeus to your Christmas party. Right? Like if Zacchaeus is alone at Christmas, you're thinking, good. Because he's not been he's on the naughty list. Right? Like, he's on the naughty list. So Zacchaeus was a tax collector. It was all about him and what he could accrue for himself. That his life was about what can I accrue even at the expense of others. How many of us are tempted to fall into that trap? How many of us believe that life is about accruing all of this stuff, even at the expense of somebody else? And so Zacchaeus knew that this guy Jesus was coming to town. And he thought for a moment, if I could maybe just get a sight, if I could maybe just get a glimpse, like maybe something would happen. And so sure enough, Jesus comes into town, and it's the best Christmas parade the little city's ever seen in their life, right? And Jesus comes into town, and there's so many people to notice, but Jesus actually notices Zacchaeus. And what he says to him is, come with me, like come down off of there. I'm going to your house, and we're going to eat. And the way the Luke tells the story, there seems to be something that happens when Jesus sits down at the table with Zacchaeus and his family and they eat together. It unlocks a sacredness in such a way that Zacchaeus' life is completely changed. Completely changed. Let's read this together. It's verses 1 through 10 of chapter 19. So he entered Jericho and was passing through. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was rich. And he was seeking to see who Jesus was. But on the account of the crowd, he could not, because he was small in stature. So he ran on ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him. For he was about to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and he said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down. I must stay at your house today. It's interesting. He doesn't say like, come over to this house or let's get you into this other house. It's as if Jesus is saying, your house is okay for me. Like your house is good enough for me. I want to go to your house. Like I value you. I'm not thinking of you as something else or putting you in a different category. I actually want to sit with you. Like you're enough. You're enough. So he hurried and came and received him joyfully. And when they had saw it, they all grumbled. He has gone in to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. I was hanging out with a really good friend of mine this week, and we were with a couple of other guys I didn't know very well. We were just kind of building some relationship, and one of the things we did is we listed like what are the 10 most defining moments of your life. And so we all took a chance to share like the 10 most defining moments of our life. And I shared all of mine, and my friend, my mentor of mine, said to me kind of after the fact, he said, bro, I've known you for a while. I had no idea that there was so much like pain in your life. I had no idea there was so much kind of negative moments, and that honestly, you brought a lot of them on yourself. And I don't think of it that way. Like the two songs we sang earlier, like that's my story. Like what the enemy meant for evil, God turns it into good. Because nothing is impossible with him. Like, so I look back at those things and I don't see them as like, oh my gosh, as much as like on the other side of it, what God's done. But like that's me. Like he's gone to be the guest of a man who's a sinner. That's me. And Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor. If I've defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold. And Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, since he also is a son of Abraham. Now, notice what Jesus is doing right there. It's like the whole first part, it's Zacchaeus, who is a tax collector. People are grumbling, who is a sinner. It's all these misplaced identities that get spoken over us in our lives. You tracking? Right? Like there's so many misplaced identities that the evil one wants to speak and is speaking over your life. And some of those things we actually believe and hold on to. Jesus comes into the scene with Zacchaeus, and at the table, eating with him, he recorrects what is true about Zacchaeus. You're not the chief tax collector. That's not who you are. That's not who you are. Who you are is you're son of Abraham. You're son of the one who was promised, who's called you as a people, who has promised to put the world back to rights through you. Like you're part of the family that puts the world back to rights. Right? Like that's the promise of Genesis 12. God comes to Abraham and says, I want you to leave what you know, to Abraham and Sarah, leave what you know, go into the unknown, and I'll bless you, bless the families of the world, and all the families around you through you. I will put the world back to rights through you. Well, Zacchaeus has seen himself as a man that's not putting the world back to rights, but actually he's breaking the world down. And Jesus steps in, says, it's not who you are. It's not who you are. You're actually son of Abraham. You put the world back to rights. And so, I'll give back fourfold. For today, salvation has come to this house. Salvation is not just a destination. It is that, but it's also the journey along the way to it. Salvation is the journey and the commitment to be person who's putting the world back to rights. That is living in the truth that nothing is impossible for God. And what the enemy means for evil, God can work for good in my life. And all these negative things that I hear in my life is not actually who I am. I'm not someone breaking down the world. I'm someone who's building up the world as I journey and, as Paul says, work out my salvation as I'm heading to the destination. Okay? Now, all of that's happening at the table. It's all happening in the midst of food. Let me just say this. Like there's something covenantal and intimate about sitting with someone and having a meal together. Like when we sit together and have a meal, there's an equality thing that's taking place that's saying, no matter what we bring to the table, I'm not better than you, you're not better than me, but we're on the same page. It communicates, I value you and our relationship. When it comes to the sense of taste within our lives this season, it's not just about the cookie tree. It's not just about the prime rib. It's not just about the party. It's not just about it's not just about that. It's that all of those things, that tasting becomes vehicles and opportunity for us to communicate, I value our relationship. I was talking with someone just earlier this morning here, and we said, you know what? Before Christmas, I was like, are you busy? He's like, nope, not busy at all. I'm like, during the day, not busy at all. I'm like, heck yeah, man, doing it right. It's like, we should get together. We should get together and have a moment together. It's in that, it's I value you and our relationship. So as you think about all those special things that you taste, I'd love for us to get proactive. And how can I use that as a way to communicate what people mean to me around me? Connie, that's Amanda's mom's name. Like every time I eat one of these cookies, have I talked about the cookie tree yet today? I just want like every time when I come here and eat one of these, like I just feel your love for us. And you care for our family so well. Like I love you. Like it doesn't take, but it's true, right? Like, and how often do we miss those moments? Like how often do I miss those opportunities? And taste gives us moments to communicate to other people of how we value them. And you're going to see people this Christmas that are important to you. And I'd love for you to consider how you can use the moments of taste to communicate the value in the relationships. And when we do that, it unlocks a piece of the sacredness of the season. All right, a couple of questions for you this morning. What are the sacred meals that you'll taste this year? You've thought about the dishes that you like, but what are some sacred meals that you'll have this year? Who will be there? Like what meals, recipes are you going to be responsible for? Which ones will you receive? I'd love for you to take some time this week to think about that. I'd love for you to consider like proactively thinking about as I'm going to have this meal with this person or these people, like, God, what do you want me to speak over them? What blessing do you want me to say over them? What words of life do I need to communicate to them in the midst of that? So that's kind of the first part. Like, just this week, I'd love you to reflect upon that and to be proactive about it. Then this week, if you've got time, I know things are busy, but invite someone that you won't see over the Christmas break to enjoy a nice treat. We'll let you imagine what a nice treat is. I mean, I know what I would consider a nice treat. Many of you know what I would consider a nice treat, but like what would you enjoy as a nice treat? And to taste Christmas with you this week. Okay, who's someone you won't see over their Christmas break? And how can you enjoy a nice treat with them to taste Christmas with you this week? And it can be super simple. And use it as a moment to communicate the value of the relationship that they have. All right? So last week was, do I have a word? What do you want me to hear? Do I have a word to hold on to over these next few weeks? What's the word I'm walking with in my life? Okay? This week is, how can I use the blessing of taste to speak blessing over the people that are around me? Over the people that are around me. And all of it helps us. I think it'll help us to experience what God has for us this season.